22 years ago today, a horrendous event occurred in the history of our United States, today forever known as 9/11. I don't think any of us need a reminder as to what happened that day or the number of lives that were lost. Time stood still. Not only those of us in the United States, but across the world were shocked, truly shocked by the events of that day. And time did appear to stand still. We all remember where we were that day, what we were doing, and the days following. I was at work. I was a human resource executive in healthcare, and I was at our main office that day. And our receptionist had her radio on in her office, and she ran to tell us what had occurred. And like so many others, we turned on the television set to see what was going on and saw the second tower hit. We were glued to the breaking news throughout the day. I could not wait to get home, to gather my 3 children to me and huddle together in our house. I had that year found unity. Thank God, I had just found unity. And the previous weekend, my home church had hosted James Twyman, known as the Peace Troubadour, for a concert at our church, and it was wonderful. And James had brought with him these strings and strings of peace flags that he was carrying with him in his visits all around the world. Now, if you're not familiar with James Twyman, he is an author of 16 books, including the New York Times bestseller, The Moses Code. He's been invited by world leaders and peace organizations to perform his peace concerts in countries such as Iraq and Croatia, Bosnia, South Africa, often while the wars or conflicts were raging around him. He's also an award-winning director or producer of 7 feature films. And in 2017, he created a haven in Mexico called Namaste Village. And I may be sharing a little bit more about that in the future. So James Twyman, the Peace Troubadour, had just been there 22 years ago. And he allowed us to keep those peace flags after 9/11 to display in our sanctuary for a time. Now, our sanctuary was kept open night and day for those of us who just wanted to come in and pray and sit in the silence. And I remember doing just that on the 12th of September. The airspace around St. Petersburg, Florida was incredibly quiet, which was a bit eerie, if I recall. We have MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa International Airport, and a regional airport. Our airspace was never quiet. But it was then. It was then for days. People started to question what they were doing with their lives. People quit jobs, changed careers. Some went back to school. Some dropped out of school. This crisis in our lives gave us pause to examine what we were truly doing with our lives. Some people got married, some divorced. We reached out to our neighbors. We repaired relationships or let them go. We decided not to struggle. We were nicer to each other. We were friendlier. We huddled, we hugged, and we joined together with others for comfort. And people went back to church. Having our world turned upside down with this tragedy woke us up for a time, forced us to look at our lives and at our priorities, placing them into a new order, perhaps, for a while, for a long while, actually, for many people. People were drawn to exploring their spirituality and the meaning of life. Churches across all denominations experienced an increase in interest and attendance. So, where are we now? That was 22 years ago. Where are we now? Well, we here at Unity of the Keys are riding the waves. We have set our sails for the changing winds, and we're truly on the cutting edge of today's hybrid church. We're adapting, we're exploring, we're trying new things, experimenting, we're listening to you, we're listening to guidance. When I returned from the Unity People's Convention this past June, I shared a bit of what I had heard from Martha Creek at her presentation. Martha Creek is a leading innovator on church relationships, on meeting people where they are, and seeing the holy in everyone. So I'm going to share a little bit more today about what she shared. She said, growing churches will innovate beyond weekend services. Growing churches will innovate beyond weekend services. A lot of the innovation that has to happen in the church needs to take place outside of Sunday and outside of the building. People don't live in the building. They live in the community where they interact, where they work, where they have conflict, where they communicate, where they adapt all day long, every day. So churches that equip people where they live and work will grow. And yes, that requires innovation. And yes, this is freedom. Also, we don't always have to do things the way they have always been done. We will continue to have Sunday services because we love them. And we are encouraged to be more innovative in our approach to what else we might do and where else we might do it. That's why we've been so excited about sharing our kindness rocks out in the community where people will find them. Why we've been so excited about placing our daily words out where people are. At the library, at laundromats, at doctor's offices, wherever they might pick them up and read them. We love making our peace sign or our heart-shaped sand sculptures at the beach, just because. Just for people to see and have their hearts lifted. That's why Carolyn and I place posters in hotels and an ad in the paper for our Easter sunrise service out at the beach. And our people created 100 Easter cards that were delivered to our neighbors, inviting them to join us at the beach. That's why we continue to open our hearts and minds to what else we can do to reach people where they are, thinking differently. It's no longer all about Sunday morning. And yes, we love our Sunday mornings. Martha also said, attendance will normalize and you will have a new church. In 2021, many leaders were clinging to the idea that the next season, this coming Easter, the fall, when the kids go back to school, Thanksgiving, Christmas, would bring attendance back to where it was in 2019, which honestly wasn't all that great in the first place in most communities. For most churches, that magic season never materialized. COVID hung on. In 2022, that constant cycle of hope and disappointment gave way to the new reality that this is our church today, right now. This is it. And it is amazing. It is what it is in a beautiful new way. And it's become evident that some of the people who said they're coming back later clearly aren't. But that's not bad news either. Each person has their own path to follow. And when you look around, you see new people too that's joined us because they found us online or a friend brought them. Martha said, You'll get to know your online audience like they're real people, because they are. Well, we know that. Our online audience is very connected and involved. Our Zoom people participate in presenting the daily word, and they attend regularly. They often attend early to also be in the Silent Unity prayer service. And potentially you'll start to notice small pockets of momentum and hope, and we build on those. Martha said, regardless, you'll settle into the reality that for better or worse, this is your church. These are the people you will build the future alongside, which is just in time. Let go of the church you had to make room for the church that is emerging. You've heard me say that before. Let go of the church you had to make room for the church that is emerging. So what is emerging here at Unity of the Keys? So much, so very much. Lori Nielsen is facilitating the Lessons in Truth book study. It's a huge success with people joining both in person and online. These are Unity basics that are being looked at, and this group is exploring and sharing and having fun, asking questions, learning, laughing, connecting, getting back to basics, so to speak. And we're deepening our prayer practices. Unity of the Keys was blessed to have the late Reverend Evelyn Casper at the helm as our founding minister. So we have a deep and rich foundation of prayer. And this foundation of prayer we're looking at kind of in three different ways this morning. We have a prayer team, and this is the group of people behind the scenes who receive the prayer slips each week, the prayer slips that you put in the prayer box, the prayer slips that you send online. And our prayer team, although the members have changed and the team itself has evolved over time, is a long-standing tradition here at Unity of the Keys. The prayers that you place in that prayer box or sent to the church are held in the utmost confidence by this team. And they are also forwarded on to Silent Unity to be held in the prayer room for another 30 days. Now, someone recently asked me what that looks like, so we're going to share a little of that this morning. The Silent Unity prayer room is under the cupola. And I think Carolyn has a slide to show us of the cupola. We sometimes call this the night light of our world, the light that is always shining. Do we have that slide? Okay. The prayer room is just below the cupola. There's also a photo of the prayer room. You'll see that it looks a lot like the painting in our prayer room. Well, in this prayer room, there's a shelf to the side of the altar that you can't see in that photo. On this shelf are several long, narrow boxes. And some boxes hold the actual prayer slips that are sent in, the pieces of paper and the envelopes that they come from with the churches. Others hold flash drives of the prayers that have been sent in electronically, or prayer requests that have been received by calling Silent Unity. When you call Silent Unity, they actually enter it in on the computer, your prayer request, and it is also electronically included in the prayer room. And each week, the oldest boxes are removed and the newest prayers received take the place on the shelf. And they are immersed in the energy of that prayer room where someone is holding prayer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our prayer team here also continues to hold those prayers in their prayer practices. I personally am forwarded any requests for letters or calls for prayer. So that is our prayer team. Reverend Evelyn also introduced the Prayer Partner Program. Each January, everyone in the congregation and also those online, I think this year we had 10 people online participate, are invited to fill out a simple form. And on that form, you place your name, how you'd like to be contacted, email or text, and what prayer you might have for the year, what your request might be. And this is, you fill this out only if you want to participate in the program. And in order to participate in the program, your only commitment are two things. One, your willingness to be held in prayer by someone. And two, your willingness to hold someone else in prayer each week. People are encouraged to let the person know whose name they have drawn, who they are. They might reach out to them regularly or occasionally with a prayer. They might ask them occasionally what they'd like held in prayer. Sometimes there's no communication at all, and that's okay too. You hold that person in prayer until the next January, when we practice that matching up again, the prayer partner program. No training is required to participate in this, so everyone can join in. This year, we have approximately 40 people holding another person in prayer and having someone hold them in prayer. It's truly a beautiful thing. I've had several people who participate in this annual program tell me that they keep everyone whose name they have ever drawn on their prayer list. They just keep adding names each year. Keep adding someone to the prayer list simply means that you remember them in prayer in some way. Kind of like the old-timey prayers we said as children. We would say a prayer, and then at the end we'd say, now, God bless mommy and daddy and brother and sister and grandma and grandpa. Our grandchildren, when I do that with them, always stall for time before going to sleep. So they always want to tell me that I've forgotten someone. So I always end my God bless with everyone in the world and all the animals in the world and figure I have it covered. You might speak loud the names of those on your prayer list. You might repeat them in your mind. You see everyone in your prayer list encircled and blessed by the healing, loving energy of God. It's that simple. When I used to travel quite a bit for work on long drives in my car, I would carry my prayer list with me and I would sing the names out loud just for something different. Our Reverend Evelyn had names written on a large piece of paper or cardstock in colored pen, and she would hold that piece of paper in her lap when she meditated in the morning, reading the names to herself. We each have our own process. And each Sunday morning, before our service at 10:30, the prayer service is held in our prayer room and led by one of our prayer chaplains, either Erin Andes or Deborah Butler. Our attendance at that 10:30 prayer service is as high or higher than when we had a larger congregation meeting in the church. The majority of our folks joining via Zoom often connect early to be in that beautiful, meaningful prayer and meditation. The prayers and meditation are created by Unity headquarters at Unity Village, and we have a new one each month. The program that we're expanding currently is our prayer chaplain program. Unlike the prayer team, members of the prayer chaplain program are not behind the scenes. They meet personally, one-on-one or on Zoom, by phone, whatever works, to connect with those who are asking for prayer. And they will receive training, several hours of training on how to do this. And today is our first question and answer session about the program after the service. I hope to see many of you there. These are not separate silos. I think Carolyn has a slide for us that shows the 3 different programs. They're not 3 separate silos. Instead, they're rather like a beautiful spiral. And she has a second slide for us of that. For members of the prayer team might also be prayer chaplains. People who are participating in the prayer partner program might also be on the prayer team or might be a prayer chaplain. This is how we face our future. This is how we emerge from crisis, from problems, from challenges, from the human condition. We deepen our prayer practices and we include more and more of our world into our prayers and into our hearts, welcoming the unwelcome, as Pema Chodron would say. Deepening our practices, allowing our roots of our truth to reach into the earth and to ground us. In 1 Thessalonians, we are told by Paul to rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances. It's very good advice then and now. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances. This is where we are now. This is the ground from which we spring. This prayer-filled ground, standing on the shoulders of the prayers of the love of so many, returning again and again and again to the space of prayer, to the power of prayer, to the love of our being. This is where we are now. This is where time and space and events have led us. And I feel personally incredibly humbled and exceedingly grateful to be in this space with you, partnered, linked, moving forward, doing what is ours to do, holding a space of love and of unlimited possibilities as we create our new world together. I'll see you at the gathering after today's service. And so it is, my friends. And so it is. God bless you.